Hi everyone, this is Commander Val from the Challenger Learning Center of Northwest Indiana, here to do some more at-home science with you. But today I have a helper. This is my dog Jake, and he is going to help us do 2 science experiments that you can do at home. He's an Australian Shepherd. He is very energetic, he loves to play, and he definitely loves his treats. So like I said, we're going to do 2 science experiments at home, but first I want to show you a little trick that Jake can do. Alright Jake, you ready to reach? Alright, reach. Reach. Good boy. So stay tuned for those two experiments. Alright, we're back here with Jake for the first of our 2 experiments that we're going to use to help us learn more about our dogs. Now for both of these experiments we're going to be using the scientific method, and if you'd like to follow along with us you can use your guide sheet, print it out. It has all the instructions, materials, place for you to write down your data and to talk about your data afterward. So this first experiment is going to be to determine if your dog is right-pawed or left-pawed. Now most of us know if we are right-handed or left-handed. Of course, we have a hand that we use mostly for writing or other things. And I was curious about whether my dog had a preference on whether he would use his left paw more or his right paw. So that's how you start an experiment using the scientific method. You have a question. Okay, then after you form your question, you make a hypothesis. You try to figure out, what do you predict is going to happen? Now I've watched Jake a little bit over the last few days and I think he's more left-pawed than right-pawed. That's my prediction, but maybe you've never noticed this about your dog at all. Like maybe you've never even paid attention to it. So if that's the case, just make a guess and see what happens. Now Jake likes to give paw, so I use that as an inspiration for this experiment. Now if I have him sit up for me, I can show you a little bit about how he does that. Hey Jake, come. Paw. He's already doing it. Paw. Very good. Good boy. Other paw. Very good. Now he tends to use the paw that mirrors the hand that I'm using. So if I use this hand, he'll normally give me that paw, and I see and that paw. So he's really good at that already. So I had to kind of be careful though how I did this experiment, because if I want to see what paw he uses to grab a treat out of my hand, he's always going to want to use the one that mirrors the arm I'm using. So I figured I could try and put a treat in each hand and close my hands like this and see, since he knows they're both in both hands, which paw will he use. And he uses left paw, but I'm going to give him both treats because he's such a good boy. So I'm going to mark on my lab sheet for trial number 1 that he used his left paw. So that I'm going to try to go through at least 10 trials to see if there's a pattern to which paw he uses. Now you want to wait a little bit of time in between each trial. I put on the sheet at least a minute. That is kind of a long time, especially if he's anxious for treats. So I also recommend using treats cut up into smaller bits, because if you're going to do this experiment, he's obviously going to get a lot of food, so you don't want to give him too much. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I have a treat in each hand, and I'm going to see which paw he uses to paw at my hands. He uses left one again. I'm going to give him both treats, and I'm going to mark that down on my trials on my lab sheet. So you keep repeating this and see if he uses the same paw or a different paw. Just keep track of it. He found another treat I had over there. Jake, come here. Let's do one more. So sit. He's already using his left paw. He's using his left paw again. So that's trial 3. He uses left paw again. So you keep doing that. I put 10 different trials on there, and then we'll see what happens. Alright, so the results were that Jake actually used his left paw 9 out of the 10 times. So I wrote that down on my results, and I can conclude that my Jake seems to be left-pawed versus right-pawed. Now there's other ways you could do this experiment. You could just observe what way your dog likes to walk around, like which paw does he use as the more dominant paw. I'm trying to get him to face you, but he's not wanting to do that. So think about other ways you might be able to test this. Maybe if your dog isn't really treat motivated like Jake is, or maybe he's not going to do the paw thing like Jake did. So be creative and try to think of other ways that you can determine if your dog is left or right pawed.